camera is not going to make me look any better. Unfortunately, what it shows is what it is. Oh. You guys get a special introduction this morning. It brings back a memory. The greatest of Protestant scholars of the 20th century, his name was Karl Barth. He was a great evangelical Lutheran scholar. He wrote hundreds of books, most of which haven't been translated into English yet, and even the ones in German, his own brother says you can't understand them. But as brilliant as he was once asked what was the one thing he learned that makes the most sense to him is his discovery and exploration of the Bible. And what he did is he broke out into the song you just sang. If you take nothing else from today, if you don't remember a word I say, remember that hymn. Now that being said, I hope you're going to remember something, which I share with you. Are there any science fiction? I know Stephen King is a science fiction nerd like myself. Are there any others in here, science fiction programs? Anyone? Lori? Sharon? Okay. Mimi? All right. What do you consider science fiction?
Doctor Who.
Wow. What was that comment?
The Mets.
The Mets. Now, I've really put them more in the sphere of Shakespearean tragedy. But that being said, interesting. There was a program on in the early to mid-90s, which was mid-to-range, it was okay. It wasn't great, it wasn't terrible. It was called Babylon 5. And it was, think of it as the UN floating around in space. It was the purpose behind it is one spot where all peoples of all planets could come together in peace. And of course there never was, but I don't want to give you the story. But interesting comment, the opening episode where two of the main characters from two different planets are talking and they're speaking to each other. And the one says to the other, be careful what you listen to. No one here is what they seem to be, and nothing here is what it seems to be. And I share with you this morning from the scriptures the passage that I read, the gospel passage that I read, reflecting obviously on something that Abby read in the first reading. And by the way, ladies, two very difficult readings. I get that. That's why I asked for you. Thank you very much for what you did. And seriously. Read well. Our day is consumed by whatever the media event du jour is. And we think of ourselves as we're the prisoners of social media. But the world hasn't changed all that much in this respect. And apparently in Jesus' day, from what we gather, either from the hints the scriptures give us and also from the writings at that time from others, people argued a lot about divorce and remarriage, at least in the Jewish culture. And those who hated Jesus wanted to draw him into an argument and get him into the middle of a controversy. Let me explain where this comes from, okay? It may very well be that people actually asked him a question because they were sincerely interested in where does this religious teacher from Galilee, where does he stand on the question of marriage and divorce and family? Maybe they were testing his orthodoxy, or more than likely, perhaps they were trying to draw him into the big media event of its day, which was Herod, who basically stole his brother's wife and married her for himself. The very event that got John the Baptist killed. That's still floating around out there. Herod was known for what he did in violation of his own teaching, the teaching of Jewish people. So the question was, is it lawful for a man to, and I used the literal, I said put away, because we clean it up and we use the contemporary word divorce. Literally to put away, to toss her away like garbage because she had no rights in that culture. Women and children were equal insofar as they were totally unequal. They had no rights. They were property. They were controlled by the paterfamilias, the man of the family. And there was no court, no legal protection for any woman. On the basis of a letter that could be drawn up for any reason, you're out of here. That's a baseball phrase. Okay? And basically there were two schools of thought. And I'm going to use cultural icons of our own day to kind of make the schools of thought sort of make sense to you, and you'll react to them so you'll know where I'm coming from. Think of, use our terms, the conservative and the liberal. So if I say there's like the Rush Limbaugh school of thought about marriage, and there's the Bernie Sanders school about marriage. All right, in terms of marriage relationships and where they go. Just to understand, the conservative approach was this. Under no circumstance may a marriage ever break unless your wife was actually caught in the act of adultery. That's it. Other than that, no. Then there's the other school of thought that says, oh, no. Men need their freedom. And the school of thought went something like this. If she did just about anything, you could divorce her. Now, gentlemen, be very careful at what you smirk at in the next 4 sentences, okay? I read them from documents of the time, but there are significant women who are close to you within striking distance. Okay? Because one could put away one's wife if she, A, spoiled cooking your meal, or B, was seen talking to a stranger, or C, spoke disrespectfully to your mother. David, I warned you. Or D, raised her voice, presuming people have arguments, but raised her voice loud enough that she could be heard by the people in the house next door. All of those reasons were legit, and I did not make them up because I'm not that smart. They were taken from documents we have read. Excuses for putting one away, which really meant tossing one away. And what Jesus does is he does not get himself involved in the controversy. He goes to another level. He takes it to a much deeper level, and that's where I want you to reflect on. Because we who are Christians believe Jesus is not just a wonderful Jewish rabbi, he is the fullness of God's word, the incarnation of God's wisdom and love. And when he's drawn into an argument, it is not a matter of intellectual positioning. It's a matter of heart and soul and conscience. And he makes it very clear that any norms, even norms that are legally binding and religiously acceptable, that deprive anyone of her dignity, is contrary to God's will and immoral. And by teaching you go back to the dawn of creation, establishes a norm that marriage is a relationship. It is blessed. It is sacred. It is hard work. It demands commitment, caring, trust on the part of both. Any of you who have ever gone to any wedding I've ever officiated at, people usually scratch their heads. People who know me shouldn't be surprised. I never talk about love as the basis of marriage. I always begin talking about commitment as the basis of marriage. Love flows from commitment. Commitment doesn't create love. Let me say that again. Love flows from commitment. Love does not create commitment. The spiritual relationship between two people, when two people commit themselves, as we say, in body, mind, and heart, it is wonderful and life-giving and grace-filled and hard. It is hard. And those of you who are married know this. And it is good for us every once in a while to hear the scriptures to bring us back to our ideals. And I do so with the knowledge that I know Lori is going to celebrate her 40 what this week?
41st.
41st this week, okay? And that last night, Paul and Barbara Bissonette celebrated their 12th with each other, okay? And those of you who have this within you realize we are always called to go back to our ideals. Go beyond our feelings of the moment and realize what we have committed ourselves to. That no one sitting or standing in this room is perfect, no relationship is perfect, that every one of us are in constant need of God's loving forgiveness, His gracious mercy, the things you prayed about in that collect. Because that's what makes a relationship work. The willingness to acknowledge your own lack of perfection, that you can be wrong and that you've done wrong. And if we expect our children to apologize to each other, and we expect our children to apologize to us when they do wrong, as we should show the example by doing the same for them, to them, and let them see us do it with each other. In our beautiful Episcopal marriage rite, we speak of a phrase, let their love be for each other, a seal upon their hearts, a mantle upon their shoulders, and a crown upon their foreheads. It's poetic language, but it says that everything about that marriage relationship is a matter of mind and heart and body. That's what we give each other. That's what we work to do. And we who are adults are the supreme and most important teachers and models for these young people who are sitting with us. They will watch us. They will judge us. We are their teachers. And we are answerable to God for how we teach them. So today's about a challenge. I was going to go with St. Francis. I was going to tell you about the blessing of animals and whatnot. Actually, I had my St. Francis moment before you people came here. This place was like Grand Central Station around 8:30. There were more deer, more fox, and more squirrels running around here before any of you came. And I've never had that happen before. And it's like they all showed up for their St. Francis blessing, which I gave them. And by the way, a reminder, I'm going to hang out here afterwards. Bring your pets, and I'm more than happy to bless them. But I want you to forget that what we're called about most of all this morning is about the relationships we have committed ourselves to, with our spouse and partner, with our children, to treat everyone in our life as a gift, not a possession, not a presumption, but as a gift. A gift you don't know how long you will have. A gift you were given to take care of. So let's leave from today acknowledging those we love, those we honor, and those we cherish, that we will be for them faithful and patient, an example of wisdom and godliness, that our hearts and our homes may be a place of peace for each other. Amen.